Welcome to this week's installment of Inclusion Revolution. I'm Tova, your host, and I'm so glad you could join us again here on Eastlink Television. This week, instead of our usual guest and dialogue around inclusion issues, I'm really pleased that Paul is going to join us for the entire episode and talk about some of the medical breakthroughs. For those of you familiar with the show, we always end the show with a few minutes of medical breakthroughs, but we never seem to have enough time, Paul. So we thought we would dedicate an entire show just to some of the really interesting breakthroughs that affect persons with disabilities across Canada and certainly in the world. But why don't you start us off with something really interesting and we'll get right into it.
Okay. The first one medical breakthrough is probably one of the oldest medical breakthroughs, and that's a medical ID bracelet.
So it's not particularly a breakthrough, but there's been some research on the effectiveness of ID bracelets?
Exactly. Exactly. It's still one of the most important life-saving devices for anyone with health issues or anyone living with a disability. It allows medical staff treatment more quickly, as proper diagnosis in the first 3 minutes is critical to treatment. Symptoms in an emergency situation often mimic other situations, so it's very important for the medical staff to have as much current information about that patient as possible, because half of all medical errors happen during admission or discharge.
So let me ask you this, why is it a medical breakthrough? We know it's an old story. Is there some new research that's really telling us the effectiveness and the importance of making sure we haven't forgotten about wearing the bracelet?
Exactly. The main statistic is that 95% of all frontline emergency responders look for a medical ID first. So if 95% of the people who are responding to your medical crisis are looking for that first, wouldn't that be the first thing that you'd want them to see?
You want to have one.
You definitely want to have one.
Well, I know with my mother, who is nonverbal, as you know, and as a result, if she were to be, somebody came up to her and didn't know, they would need the bracelet because it actually talks about her trachea, because she actually breathes through here and not through her mouth and nose. And of course, the instinct is to throw the oxygen here.
Exactly.
Whereas in my mother's case, that would be benign. It would be useless, and they would need to have the neck mask. So as a result, I know for her that bracelet is crucial as a nonverbal speaker anyway. But of course, you're referring to the fact that often we're not conscious, not clear, and not able to talk about our maladies at the time that we're, of course, in an emergency situation. And that's why the bracelet has reemerged as something that's very simple, very straightforward, but with 95% of responders looking for it, it's obviously highly crucial.
Right, and it's definitely something it's not a choice issue, it's a must-have if you have any health issues or if you have any kind of disability.
Absolutely, that makes perfect sense.
People in Canada can go to www.universalmedicalid.com. universalmedicalid.com.
To register and actually get the bracelet?
Yeah, you can order them, and it's not only bracelets anymore, there's necklaces, they've hidden them in a whole bunch of different
I know, my mom has a beautiful gold one actually. I have to say it matches well with all the bracelets, so I hope they can find it within there. But that's very interesting. So again, what we want to tell our listeners and our viewers across Canada is that we really want you to have the bracelet. Don't put it off. Get online, get to the website, and make sure that you have what those responders are looking for so that you have the proper treatment and you are not mistreated based on assumptions, because so many maladies can look alike.
Exactly.
Really important. I appreciate that, Paul. So what else can we talk about?
Another topic we researched recently was technology surrounding, let's say, point-and-click technology. For example, people who have limited mobility or less than average mobility, where maybe they have a hard time clicking a mouse, for example, on a computer. People take for granted how easy it is to maneuver a computer screen or maneuver around a Windows-based application. But if you're unable to click a mouse, how does someone do that? Right,
and that's really important, because I think we all think automatically, oh, that must be someone who's paraplegic or has no arms or something like that, when in fact people with arthritis, chronic pain, such as fibromyalgia, all of those people are going to want to hear more about point and click, because it's a big issue with people with all kinds of mobility issues. So let's not just immediately jump into oh, you're talking about a paraplegic. We're talking about anybody who has stiffness in the joints and anything like that. So what is this point and click technology all about?
First of all, I'd like to say it's a free device that anyone can download off the internet.
Fantastic information. Free device to download. I like that already.
It works with what's called Click Aid and Click and Type. It gives a user complete freedom to use a computer, and it's available in 12 language packs. So I've gone online and looked at this service package. So, you know, if it comes in a different language, or someone has another language or their first language, there are 12 languages you can choose from in the service packs. And basically what it does is it allows someone to basically maneuver the mouse and hover over boxes within the screen that have certain functions that will ask the computer to do various things that someone would normally ask to do with a mouse.
Right. So it's sort of like, is it in cooperation with the mouse or instead of the mouse, if you know what I mean?
It's really instead of the mouse, because really the mouse becomes a wand. basically.
Right.
You get a picture of the mouse then becoming a wand and simply hovering over particular things, and then the
click element.
Exactly, the click element is removed altogether.
Okay, so that's great. So do you have the website that people can go on and access this?
www.polital.com. So www.polital.com/PNC.
Okay, and again, remember everybody watching today's show that all of this information will be on inclusionrevolution.com website, so you don't have to be scribbling. You can relax and enjoy Paul's and my discussion today, and then hit the website to get all of these different resources if it's of interest to you. So, okay, so we've talked a little bit about the importance of bracelets,
yes.
something old that has become new again.
Yes.
We've also discussed a little bit about some IT, and of course, you know I believe IT is the great equalizer, and we could put an entire show into IT from things like the PEAT, whereas I've also worked with people with short-term memory loss.
Right.
And PEAT is actually a software that you download for your Palm Pilot, so it's clearly for people with some IT acumen.
Correct.
And allows people to remember everything. I had a client who couldn't even remember to get out of the shower because she couldn't remember how long she'd been in there.
Right.
So we got her the PEAT, and it not only told her when to get in, but when to get out.
Right.
And also meal times, how long, and it even set up the meals. So there's tremendous resources I know out there, and I certainly want everyone who's listening today to be sure to remember that we may not cover it, but it's up to you to get out there and search and look for all of these great breakthroughs because they're out there. Or you can contact us at inclusionrevolution.com by emailing Paul, I know, at info@inclusionrevolution.com if you want to hear more or have questions about other types of accommodation, because we do have a lot of expertise behind us at Inclusion Revolution on this issue. So what else would we like to tell them about? Because that's what today's all about, big news.
Just further to what you mentioned about the PEAT, the device, there are new devices now that come in a wristwatch. They're completely compatible with your computer and USB ports. So basically what they'll do is they'll map up to 17 functions in a day and an alarm someone. So you can program the watch to say meds. So at a particular time, meds would come up and as a reminder to take your meds. It vibrates, it flashes for 5 minutes, and allows someone to, groceries. So you can do up to 17 tasks within a wristwatch setting. So it's very portable. Someone carries it with them, and you can access your computer and map up your schedule or change your settings. So a caregiver could change the settings for someone who needs to be reminded or has a slight cognitive impairment and needs reminding.
What I think is really exciting is that the whole purpose of these medical breakthroughs, and specifically assistive devices, which we're kind of talking a lot about today, is because we don't want people staying at home, and we do believe there's an option. We talked in earlier episodes about social isolation, but one of the reasons I find so many people with disabilities tell me they're not getting out or doing is because they feel tied due to their health issues. And I think we all deserve it to ourselves to research our disability and to find out more about what types of things are out there. I even remember with my father would forget to take his pills, and the Lifeline, I've fallen and I can't get up, which I didn't know also had a feature where they actually said, David, it's time to take your pills back to him. So there's often things around us that we aren't even taking advantage of. And certainly with medical breakthroughs that are happening now, especially in the IT and all this technical, it's really quite exciting for people who maybe previously thought they didn't have the opportunity to get out and to break that cycle of social isolation. Again, I have to think of my mother who's had so many challenges, but when she was, for instance, using even a feeding tube at one point for her nutrition, she was tied to the house. And then we found out through some basic research that there was a portable unit she wore over her shoulder like a big purse, and was able to literally get out of the house and the feeding mechanism was working within a small purse-like container. And I think, again, my mother felt she was going to be resulting in, of course, being at home, social isolation, never getting out. And the discovery of something as simple as that was really freeing for her. And that's why I think it's so important. We're always talking about medical breakthroughs. We're always encouraging our listeners and our viewers to be sure that they're checking things out without us. We just want to inspire. So when we come back from the break, I know we're going to have a number of more stuff to talk about. I just want to remind everybody again, there's a lot of information coming out today. Be sure to check the inclusionrevolution.com website for follow-up. And when we come back, Paul and I are going to talk about some of the really creative and interesting breakthroughs that are going to make your life a little easier. We'll be right back with Inclusion Revolution.